Okay, now here's what's the best water Pokemon by MandJTV. Now, there's a few candidates I feel like it comes to mind, I think. Mudkip perhaps, maybe? But let's see what MandJTV thinks, I suppose. Also, hopefully MandJTV is alright with me like reacting to stuff like this, I suppose. If not, I guess if I upload this to YouTube as its own, I suppose I can. If they don't like it, I guess I can just simply remove it, no problem. Anyways.
I know many people who, when asked about starter Pokemon, respond with, oh, I always pick the water one. But despite all these water starters being the same type, doing this can lead to very different experiences since every region is different. Today I'll be ranking all of the water starters based on how well they fare as team members in the games you can pick them. I am not looking at competitive viability. That's not my wheelhouse, it's Wolfie's.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just gonna say, so far, I feel like my go-to has been, most of the time, are water types. Now that I think about it, there are a few exceptions in some case. And yeah, you may have seen me like in like my what the frick? Hold on, sorry. There's just a floating uh bag here. What the frick? Hello? What? There's a it's going up. I think there's an actual ghost in my game here. Not a ghost type Pokemon, but an actual ghost. Oh no. Shit, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, you might have seen me in my previous X and Y playthrough. I picked Fennekin instead, just to be a bit different this time. And I have sent there my usual pick for X and Y is Greninja. But yeah, anyways.
Let's start at the bottom of the list, and I think the worst water starter is Blastoise.
Oh,
Kalos,
interesting.
specifically.
Oh,
Don't be
I see,
mad.
I see.
At least not yet, please. Blastoise will appear twice on this list because it can be chosen both in Kanto and
gonna say, like,
Kalos. So if you're a
minute.
Blastoise fan, don't worry, its performance in Kanto is higher on this list.
Right.
But in Kalos, it's just not helpful. In X and Y, you choose your Kanto starter between gyms 1 and 2, so the Squirtle line only matters from Gym 2 onward. Gym 2 is actually a rock gym, which may initially seem really good for the Wartortle you would have at that time. After all, being good, or bad, in earlier battles matters a lot more, since your team options are significantly more limited. However, Grant is a deceptive rock gym leader. He only has 2 Pokemon, and while Water is good against Amara, Tyrunt's Dragon type means it is not weak to Water. I don't really feel comfortable saying a Pokemon is strong against a gym leader when it's only actually good against one of that gym leader's Pokemon. Then after that gym, you have a long stretch of Blastoise being simply not good. You've got the neutral fighting gym, but then back-to-back grass and electric gyms, and then just a long time of water neutrality. Finally, you fight Malva in the league, but then there's no ground specialist in Kalos at all. And even though it has a powerful Mega that could do a lot of damage even in neutral fights, it is the worst of the 4. Charizard Y is frankly insanely OP, with Drought boosting its already outrageous special fire moves. Mega Venusaur is a tank thanks to Thick Fat giving it only 2 weaknesses, and it still has 2 useful stats for offense. Finally, Charizard X powers up a ton of physical moves with Tough Claws, but it can still make use of special ones. But then Mega Blastoise has Mega Launcher, an ability that boosts the power or healing of 7 total moves. And Blastoise only learns 4 of them. The only boosted water move that Blastoise learns is Water Pulse. And with that boost, it only gets as strong as Surf, which you would just already wanted to know anyways. This is a game with a gym! Mega Blastoise is obviously not a bad Pokemon with its stats, but it's a bad Mega because there are several stronger options for your once per battle Mega. In summation, not only does Blastoise not match up well in Kalos, but it also prevents you from using far stronger Megas. Before I reveal the next entry, I should explain why I'm making a video so specifically focused on water-type starters, and that is because I am taking part in Team Water, a crowdfunding campaign for charity going on across YouTube this August. 1 in 10 people on Earth do not have the basic necessity of clean drinking water. So we're raising money for WaterAid, one of the most trusted water organizations in the world. The goal is to raise $40 million by the end of the month, and if we hit that goal, we'll have provided 2 million people clean water for decades. Any level of donation helps. Just $1 gives one person access to clean water for an entire year. So head to teamwater.org, linked in the description below, or click the fundraiser button attached to this video and take part in Team Water. The next starter on this list is Greninja. I know, I'm sorry, I've already picked 2 of the most popular ones, but it's not my fault. It's Kalos's. In Gen 6, Greninja was so good in the singles competitive scene
that's really
that it was
unfortunate.
banned to Smogon's Uber's tier.
What?
If you don't know what that means, to simplify, basically it was as good as legendary Pokemon. But that was mainly thanks to its ability Protean, changing its type depending on the move it used, and thus guaranteeing stab no matter what, and constantly changing its weaknesses. But Protean is Greninja's hidden ability. In X and Y, you're stuck with regular old Torrent Greninja. And that is not a good thing. The Froakie line deals with the same problems as Blastoise in the first half of the game. Water is not that helpful, then gets walloped by 2 gyms in a row. But Greninja is different from Blastoise because it gains the Dark type, which makes it debatably worse, but I think just a little better. This Dark typing makes Greninja weak to the Fighting Gym, but it shouldn't be fully evolved yet, so that is unlikely to be a problem. What is a problem is that Greninja is now weak to the Fairy Gym, meaning it's bad against 3 gyms in a row. This is the main reason why you could argue that Blastoise is better. However, this Dark typing also means it's really good against Olympia, the Psychic Gym, so I think that balances things out. So why did I rank it higher than Blastoise if I think the Psychic and the Fairy Gym kind of cancel each other out? Well, there's 2 reasons. First, Greninja has 2 stabs, while Blastoise only has 1. The Dark typing can be helpful against random NPC Pokemon at various points, plus a couple bonus League Pokemon. Then the second reason is what I mentioned earlier. Choosing Greninja does not prevent you from getting one of the other Kanto Megas. If you pick Greninja, you can make up for its shortcomings by using a really powerful Mega Charizard or Venusaur. But if you pick Blastoise, then you've locked those much better Megas away. Next we have Inteleon. Sword and Shield did something unique where the first 3 gyms are the first 3 starter types, and thus every starter has one it's strong against, one it's weak to, and one it mutually resists. Unfortunately for Sobble, the one it's weak to is the very first one, while the one it's good against is the last of the 3. Inteleon later gets to do well in the Rock Gym, but that's only in Sword, so it's half a gym, I guess. And then 2 of Raihan's Pokemon are weak to water as well, so I guess that's another half of the gym. So a total of 2, but there is no Galar ground specialist, although there isn't an electric one either. The end result is that the Inteleon line will struggle early, get 1 good matchup, and then be neutral against most everything the rest of the game with some small boosts here and there. It's not awful, but never getting a secondary typing, having a poor move pool, and being weak to the first gym all combine to make it lower on the list. Also, the poor lizard doesn't even get to be good and competitive like the other Galar starters do. This is not relevant to the ranking, I just wanted to mention it, because like, holy crap, it's the only bad one. Cinderace has excelled in singles thanks to getting Libero, a different name for Protean, and Rillaboom is one of the top VGC Pokemon of all of them, thanks to Grassy Surge, Grassy Glide, Fake Out, and really high attack. Inteleon stinks in both formats. Again, this is not relevant to the ranking, just crazy that the other 2 are really good, and Inteleon is bad. Next is the newest water starter, Quaquaval. One thing I need to note before this discussion, Paldea's fights can be done in any order, but the levels don't scale. Therefore, I'm assuming you'll be
Quote,
progressing
unquote,
in the
any
suggested
order.
order you see here, and that your Pokemon will match the levels of the fights you're doing. Because Paldea has a boss fight for each type, all starters will have their chance to shine, and Quaquaval is no exception. It matches up well against the Titan Cloth, the Fire Team Star Camp, the Normal Gym, the Desert Ground type Titan, and the Ice Gym. This is a lot, but keep in mind that only 2 of these battles occur before it reaches its final form. This is big, since because Quaxwell is not fighting type, it misses the chance to be strong against the Dark Team Star Camp and the Titan Earthworm. Additionally, the early gyms really mess it up. 2 of the first 3 are super effective against water. Another grass-electric gym pair. This happens in Kanto too. Why do they do this so many times? And then it has to deal with the Psychic Gym and Fairy Team Star Camp later. If only the Psychic and Fairy battles swapped with the Dark and Steel battles. If that had happened, Quaquaval might have a claim to being the best Paldea starter, since it would have gotten to face the Psychic and Fairy battles before being fighting type, then the Dark and Steel ones after. But alas, the opposite is true. Also, its signature move is the worst of the trio. Meowscarada gets a no-miss always crit move in Flower Trick, which is crazy, and Skeledirge gets Torch Song that boosts its offense and thus allows for some scary snowballing, or fireballing. But then Quaquaval's Aqua Step just boosts its speed, which is quite underwhelming by comparison. Quaquaval is not at the bottom of this list because it does have several battles that it's strong against, but since most of them come in the latter half of the journey, it has to be in the lower half of this list.
Ha! It is I, Grunty, boy, and I have an announcement. I am never exercising again.
I feel like you have to be overreacting. Why would you stop completely?
Because while I'm doing it, I can't listen to K-pop Demon Hunters music.
Oh my god! That's actually not an overreaction! Wait, why can't you listen?
I've been doing a lot of outdoor jogging this summer, but I need my ears free in order to be aware of my surroundings.
Wait, just use the new bone conduction headphones from Raycon, the sponsor of today's video. I use them all the time, and once you try them, they're gonna be your idol. These headphones do not go in your ear, letting you stay aware of your surroundings.
Actually,
but you still get great sound quality through vibrations. With 13 hours of battery life, you'll be golden all day long.
Well, that sounds perfect, so I don't get hit by a random Rhyhorn's takedown. But won't I get them kind of sweaty?
They're IP68 rated, meaning they're totally dust and waterproof. Great for sandy trails or sweaty runs, and no worries if you're caught in the rain. Go ahead and try them on so you can see how it's done. They're really comfortable. I often forget that I'm wearing them.
Ooh, you're right. Let me play something.
Yeah, Grunty Boy is the sponsors guy.
Wow, I love what it sounds like.
Go to buyraycon.com/MandJTVBC or scan the QR code on screen to get 20% off your order of the bone conduction headphones.
Awesome! I'm gonna take these on a run and end it with a rewarding soda pop. Ta-ta!
Nice.
Next is Hisuian Samurott. Because this list only has 11 entries, being in the 7 slot does not mean the Pokemon is bad. It more just means that it's fine. Because in reality, I think all of the Legends Arceus starters are just fine, because in my opinion, it's the game where your starter choice matters the least. Most Pokemon games are obviously turn-based combat games.
Yes, because of
Legends Arceus is an action combat game with mostly optional turn-based combat tacked in there sometimes.
The key
In other
battles
words,
are...
the Pokemon battling itself
Yeah,
is simply
okay.
a generally small part of the experience. You can catch Pokemon without ever entering into a battle
Isn't
with
exactly
them,
a key
and the
thing
climactic
compared to
boss
other
fights
Pokemon
mainly involve
games.
just trying not to die. So while I could go deeply into how this Oshawott line has a type advantage over Noble Cleavor, Arcanine, and Avalugg, and then is weak to Lilligant and Electrode, I just really don't think it matters that much. Picking Hisuian Samurott isn't gonna hurt you, or really, like, help you. Like, pick the one you want. I don't think it's really gonna make much of a difference. Next up is regular Samurott. Gonna have to rename these species Switzerott, because they're neutral in every freaking fight. In Unova, the Oshawott line is weak to the Electric Gym and strong against the Ground Gym that immediately follows. And that is it. It doesn't get a secondary type, there's no rock specialist, and the grass and fire specialists are tied up in the Striaton gym. Okay, I guess it's technically weak to Silent in black and white. But that's true for all of the starters. The starters are always weak to the Striaton gym. That's how they designed it. I suppose you could also discuss Samurott's resistance to the Ice Gym, and it being resisted by the Dragon Gym, and the fact it gets some coverage and has balanced physical and special attack, but then it's slow and only kind of bulky. Do you see how it all just evens out in the wash? Samurott is fine. Like, it does not excel or fail dramatically in any category.
I guess so.
It is neutral. And that is why it is in the smack dab middle of this list. Next is Feraligatr. And due to the timing of this video, with Legends ZA only being about 2 months away, I should mention I have no idea what happens to Feraligatr there. I don't know if it gets a mega or a regional variant or what. This version of me, no clue. So, I'm only analyzing Feraligatr in Johto. Feraligatr was a bit tricky to rank because unlike basically every other Pokemon in this video, its usefulness varies significantly depending on the generation. That's because between Gen 2 and Gen 4, the physical special split occurred. In Gold, Silver, and Crystal, all of Feraligatr's water moves, plus its most important coverage types of Ice and Dark, were special attacks. This sucked for Feraligatr, since while its base attack stat is 105, its special attack is only 79. That's only about 75% as strong, and in Gen 2, that means it's an underwhelming starter. But then the physical special split happened in Gen 4, and Feraligatr got access to physical attacks like Aqua Tail, Ice Fang, and Crunch. This buff was significant enough that in previous videos, I've argued that Cyndaquil is the best Gen 2 Johto starter, while Totodile is the best in Gen 4. I'm not sure I still feel that way. Cyndaquil's better early, but Feraligatr's better later, like much better later. Still though, I consider it overall a neutral starter. There's no grass or electric gym, which is nice, but there's also no rock, fire, or ground gym. But while water's mostly neutral, the coverage of Bite and Crunch help a lot with Morty and Will. While the coverage of Level Up Ice Fang is really significant against Claire and Lance, especially considering how hard it was to deal with dragon types before the fairy type. I should also note that Samurott does get ice coverage too to help with the Dragon Gym in Unova, but it's still lower than Feraligatr because you have to use the inaccurate Blizzard since the Ice Beam TM is in the Giant Chasm. Meanwhile, Crocodile gets Ice Fang at level 21, at least in Gen 4. Next is Blastoise in Kanto. See, Blastoise fans, everything's fine. Sucks in Kalos, yeah, but with the Kanto version, you made it to the top 4. Blastoise earns a spot this high on the list because Squirtle is strong against the very first gym. No other starter so far in this video has been able to claim that, and it's so significant, in my opinion, that it really skyrockets a Pokemon's ranking because you just have so few team options before the first gym. In Fire Red and Leaf Green, the only wild Pokemon you can find with stab damage super effective against rock is Mankey. Then in Red and Blue, there are no options. If you don't pick Squirtle or Bulbasaur, you're stuck using coverage against Brock. If you can even find it. I think there's like a double kick Nidoran somewhere, I don't know, but it's like way worse. Blastoise does hit a bit of a rougher patch after Gym 1 though, being neutral against Misty, then weak to the Electric and Grass gyms back to back. Again, Electric and Grass, back to back, in a third of the regions. Wait, also, the Grass Totem and Electric Totem are back to back. There's the Rock Kahuna in the middle, but still, what's going on? But after the Grass Gym, you fight Giovanni twice, and both times he has at least 2 Pokemon weak to water. Then Blastoise finishes Kanto strong against both the Fire and Ground gyms. It's also an excellent Surf user, which matters since you'll always want that in your party. In short, Blastoise is quite a solid starter, bested only in Kanto by Venusaur. It's now time for the podium. But before I reveal the Pokemon standing on it, I must ask you if you want a medal. I know, I'm not going to give you a medal. But if you want to subscribe, that'd be super awesome. You watched this far into the video.
I'm already subscribed.
If you think you're subscribed, double check. I'd really appreciate it. Anyways, Third place, our next starter is Empoleon. This is another one that is strong against the very first gym, which, as I said, big deal. That wasn't meant to be sarcasm. I think it kind of maybe sounded like it was, but no, it's like it is actually a big deal. It does take a hit when the immediately following gym is grass, and then it has several neutral matchups in a row. But what's really remarkable about Empoleon is the steel typing it gains in its final form. Steel is one of the best types in the game and showers Empoleon with a ton of resistances, more than almost every Pokemon ever. In modern mechanics, Empoleon has 10 resistances plus an immunity. Then in Gen 4, it also resisted Dark and Ghost. Even if it's not offensively strong in a battle, it's gonna be defensively strong in most. Once it's in this final form, it will first be good against Byron thanks to 2 of his Pokemon being weak to water. And then it's fantastic against Candace, 4 times resisting ice. Volkner is obviously not a good matchup, but then in the league, ground and fire are weak to water, while its steel typing resists bug and psychic. Obviously the ground matchup is kind of risky, but it does still count. Empoleon is frankly a fantastic starter. It's just the grass gym being second hurts it a little bit, and also it didn't get steel until its final form. If it had gotten that in its second form, maybe it's the best, but Monferno gets fighting at level 14. Makes it very good. Our silver medal finisher is Primarina. It may seem a little strange to have it here since it's not strong against the first battle of the game, like Squirtle and Piplup were, but let me elaborate. Popplio learns Disarming Voice, a fairy-type move, extremely early. This gives it coverage for the Totem Alolan Raticate in the Moon games, not Gumshoos and Sun, unfortunately, but then it's also good against Hala's fighting types. It's not stab, but it is something to have significant coverage for so early. It also gets Baby Doll Eyes early, super useful for Hala's physical attackers. You then have the neutral water trial, then it's strong against the fire trial, but then of course weak to the grass trial. Another one of those trios, like the first gyms in Galar, just came a little later. But at the end of Akala Island, this is where this Pokemon truly shines. Because as Brionne or Primarina, this starter is strong against every single remaining Kahuna. Rock Olivia is weak to water. Dark Nanu is weak to fairy. Ground Hapu is weak to water. And her Flygon, that is not weak to water, is weak to fairy. If you count Disarming Voice coverage early, the Primarina line is good against every Kahuna in the game. The battles that most closely resemble gym battles. That's crazy. Also, I should of course mention, it is weak to the electric totem fight, but is also strong against the totem Kamo-O. But I want to keep the focus and emphasis on every Kahuna. It's got something for every Kahuna.
I guess I know to pick that in my Alola playthrough. My original go-to pick in Alola is actually like Litten, guess cat. But you might change things up this time, maybe. Well, at least like in like I have played the original Sun and Moon, but not the Ultra Sun and Moon ones. Not the anyways.
You even get to fight Hala and Olivia twice, since they're also Elite Four members. Okay, just Olivia in the Ultra Games, since Mullane took Hala's place. But still, and its special attack stat is massive. The only starters with higher offensive stats are Megas. And also Ash Greninja. Yet even despite all that talent, there's still one water starter that's better. Hoenn.
Real quick before we, I guess we went to the first top one here. Shout out to, what is it called again? Primarina's Z-Move, I think. Its own signature Z-Move. Apparently, it's like copyrighted or something. There's like a copyright thing that gets to your videos if you try to like play its audio or visual or whatever. I remember that being the case in like when it got revealed and stuff. I don't know if it's still a thing today, but yeah, that's quite something. Anyways.
Bebes rejoice! Because Swampert is not only the best water
it is.
starter, it might be the best starter,
I thought it would be the case.
The first Hoenn gym is rock, so it of course checks that
it's
box.
Just an
but then
amazing
after that,
starter.
Marshtomp gains the ground type in the middle stage. stage. A lot of the starters become really good starters because they gain a super useful secondary typing in the middle stage, not the final stage. And this is the most extreme example of that. The water starter would normally stink against the electric gym, but by adding ground, Marshtomp's matchup against Watson goes from terrible to excellent. This means Marshtomp is strong against 3 of the first 4 gyms. 3 of the first 4 and weak to none of them. And I'm not done! Tate and Liza's gym is marketed as a psychic gym, but their team is either 3/4 or entirely weak to water, depending on the game. That means Swampert is good against half of the gyms. Water and ground are also great against 2/3 of Steven's team, and if you're in Ruby or Emerald, it crushes Team Magma. Then if you factor in optional ice coverage, it also matches up well against Winona and Drake. And on top of all of that, almost nothing kills it. Water ground is fantastic typing, because while it does have a 4x grass weakness, that is its only weakness. And despite the lush environment of Hoenn, it totally lacks a grass specialist. Your rival will use some, and there's a couple in the league, but generally, most enemy trainers will just not have super effective damage for your Swampert. And then if you Mega Evolve it in Gen 6 and give it these stats, my god, you're just making it preposterously powerful. Although, also, unfortunately, quite ugly. Swampert is hands down the best water starter in the games where you can pick it. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to support Team Water. And if you want to see another one of my starter comparison videos, check out my video where I figured out the best starter in every region, assuming you could actually pick all of them in every region.
Hey, make sure you like and subscribe to the original videos channel. And while you're at it, like and subscribe to my channel as well. I stream pretty much every day here on YouTube and on Twitch, so why don't you come say hi as well? Anyways, hope to see you guys next time. Bye for now.